Soomin, good evening, dear friend. Tonight, before you drift off to sleep, I would like to tell you a gentle story. A quiet story. A peaceful story. A story that takes place in a small town where the evenings arrive slowly and softly, like a warm blanket being pulled over the day. So make yourself comfortable. Let your shoulders relax. Allow your breathing to become calm and easy. And as you listen, imagine a sleepy little town resting beneath a sky filled with stars. This town was called Willowbrook. It was not a large town. There were no towering buildings, no busy highways, no rushing crowds. Instead, Willowbrook was filled with narrow streets lined with old trees, small houses with glowing windows, flower gardens tucked beside white fences, and friendly little shops that had stood quietly for many years. Every evening, as the sun slipped behind the distant hills, the town would begin to slow down. The bakery would close its doors. The flower shop would dim its lights. The librarian would carefully place books back upon their shelves. And one by one, the people of Willowbrook would make their way home. But there was one place that seemed especially magical when evening arrived. A place hidden near the end of Maple Street. A place loved by generations of children. The last toy store in town. The toy store had been there for longer than most people could remember. Its wooden sign hung above the entrance. Its windows were large and welcoming, and behind those windows rested hundreds of toys. Teddy bears, wooden trains, porcelain dolls, music boxes, toy boats, tiny robots, and many other treasures. Some toys were new, some were old. Some had been sitting on the shelves for many years, yet every toy seemed to belong exactly where it was. Tonight, as the evening sky slowly turned silver blue, the toy store glowed warmly beneath the rising moon. Soft golden light spilled through its windows. The light stretched across the sidewalk like a welcoming invitation. Inside, everything was peaceful. The wooden floorboards rested quietly. The shelves stood tall and proud. The toys sat patiently in their places, waiting, watching, listening. Far above the town, the first stars began to appear. Tiny points of light twinkled against the darkening sky. The moon climbed higher. A gentle breeze moved through the streets. Tree branches swayed softly. Leaves whispered together. And Willowbrook slowly prepared for another peaceful night. Inside the toy store, an elderly shopkeeper carefully moved between the shelves. His name was Mr. Benjamin. He had owned the store for many years. Long enough to watch children grow into parents, long enough to see generations discover their favorite toys, long enough to know every corner of the shop by heart. Mr. Benjamin moved slowly, not because he was in a hurry, but because there was no need to rush. He paused beside a shelf of teddy bears. He gently straightened a ribbon. Then he adjusted a small train resting upon its track. Next, he dusted a music box near the window. As he worked, a peaceful smile rested upon his face. The toy store felt like home. Every shelf carried memories. Every toy seemed to hold a story. Outside, the sky continued growing darker. The stars multiplied. The moonlight became brighter. And eventually, Mr. Benjamin knew it was time to close for the night. He walked toward the front door. The little bell above it jingled softly. He reached for the light switch. Then he paused. For a moment, he looked back across the store, across the shelves, across the rows of toys, across all the memories collected over so many years. A warm smile touched his face once more, and in a voice barely louder than a whisper, he said, "Good night, my old friends." Then he turned off the lights. The golden glow disappeared, but darkness never fully arrived. Because moonlight soon slipped through the windows, silver light spread gently across the floor. It touched the shelves, the toys, the counter, and every quiet corner of the store. Mr. Benjamin locked the door and made his way home. The bell jingled one final time. Then silence settled over the toy store. A calm and peaceful silence. The kind of silence that only exists late at night. The kind that feels comforting rather than empty. For a while, nothing moved. The moon continued shining. The clock above the counter ticked steadily. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Outside, the town slept peacefully. Inside, the toy store remained still. Or at least, it appeared to. Because something wonderful was about to happen. Something that happened only after midnight. Something that happened when the streets were quiet, when the stars filled the sky, and when everyone else had gone to sleep. The clock continued ticking, patiently, steadily, as if counting down to a secret known only to the toys themselves. And as the hands slowly approached midnight, the moonlight seemed to grow a little brighter. The store felt a little more magical. And somewhere among the shelves, a very old teddy bear waited peacefully for the night to begin. The clock continued its steady rhythm. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Outside, Willowbrook slept peacefully beneath the moonlit sky. The houses were dark and quiet. The streets were empty. Even the wind seemed to move more gently now. Inside the toy store, silver moonlight rested softly across the shelves. It painted long shadows upon the floor. It shimmered across polished wood. And it filled the store with a quiet glow that felt almost dreamlike. Then at last, midnight arrived. The old clock above the counter began to chime, one gentle note after another, soft, slow, peaceful. As the final chime faded into silence, something magical began to stir. Near the front window sat a vintage teddy bear. His name was Oliver. He had rested upon the same shelf for many years. His fur was soft and slightly worn. His stitched smile was warm and kind. And tonight, just as he had done on many special nights before, Oliver slowly opened his eyes. He blinked once, then twice. A gentle smile appeared upon his face. For a few moments, he simply sat quietly, listening, feeling, enjoying the calmness of the night. He loved this moment, the very first moments after midnight, when the world seemed to pause, when everything felt peaceful, when the toy store belonged to moonlight and memories. Oliver looked toward the window. The moon hung high above Willowbrook. Its light poured gently through the glass. He watched tiny dust particles floating through the air. They drifted lazily through the moonbeams like tiny silver feathers. Everything felt calm. Everything felt safe. Everything felt exactly as it should. A little farther down the shelf sat Penny, a beautiful porcelain doll with golden curls and a blue dress. Penny slowly stretched her arms. Then she opened her eyes and smiled. "Another lovely night," she whispered softly. Oliver nodded. "It certainly is." Penny gazed toward the moonlit streets outside. "I always love how quiet the town becomes." "So do I," said Oliver. For a moment, neither of them spoke. They simply enjoyed the stillness, the peaceful silence, the gentle beauty of the sleeping town. Soon, a faint metallic sound echoed softly through the store. Click, whir, click. It came from Rusty, a friendly silver robot who rested upon a nearby shelf. Tiny gears turned quietly inside him. His eyes glowed softly. Then he stretched his arms and smiled. "Good evening, everyone." "Good evening, Rusty," Oliver replied. Rusty always spoke slowly, carefully, as though he liked to think about every word before saying it. And perhaps he did. That was one of the things the other toys loved most about him. Nearby, Whistle the wooden train slowly rolled forward along a short section of track. His polished wooden wheels moved quietly. His little lantern reflected the moonlight. "Good evening, friends," he said cheerfully. Soon the four friends sat together beneath the silver glow of the moon. No one hurried. No one rushed. There was nowhere they needed to be. No schedule to follow. No task to complete. Only a beautiful night waiting to unfold. Oliver looked around the store. The shelves seemed especially peaceful tonight. Rows of toys rested quietly in their places. Stuffed animals, building blocks, toy boats, music boxes, tiny figurines. Each one seemed wrapped in moonlight. Each one seemed surrounded by memories. Oliver loved memories. He believed they were among the most precious things in the world. A memory could stay warm inside someone's heart for years, sometimes even a lifetime. And this old toy store held thousands of memories, perhaps even millions. The toys often wondered about the children who had once visited the shop, the children who had pressed their noses against the windows, the children who had laughed while choosing toys, the children who had carried their treasures home. Many of those children were grown now. Some had families of their own. Some lived far away. Some still remembered the toy store whenever they saw a teddy bear or heard a music box. And somehow, that thought always made Oliver smile, because memories never truly disappear. They simply settle quietly within us, waiting for the right moment to return. A certain smell, a certain song, a certain place, and suddenly a memory wakes up again, warm and bright, just like an old friend. The moonlight shifted slightly across the floor. Outside, a few clouds drifted slowly past the stars. The night felt endless, peaceful, comforting, like a favorite blanket. Oliver climbed down from a shelf and began walking slowly through the store. The others followed behind. Their footsteps were gentle, soft enough that they barely made a sound. Together they wandered between the aisles, past rows of colorful toys, past shelves filled with games and puzzles, past tiny rocking horses and stuffed rabbits. Every corner seemed to hold a story. Every shelf seemed to hold a memory. Near the center of the shop stood a display of toy boats. The boats rested upon a painted blue shelf designed to look like the ocean. Oliver paused beside them. He always enjoyed this display. The boats reminded him of adventures, not exciting adventures, not noisy adventures, but calm adventures. The kind where gentle waves rock a boat beneath a sunny sky. The kind where there is plenty of time to watch clouds drifting overhead. The kind where nobody needs to hurry. As Oliver gazed at the toy boats, he imagined distant oceans, golden sunsets, quiet harbors, and peaceful journeys beneath the stars. The thought made him feel wonderfully relaxed. Nearby, Penny stopped beside a shelf of music boxes. Each one was different. Some were painted with flowers. Others were decorated with stars. A few were shaped like castles. One looked like a tiny carousel. Penny gently touched one of the music boxes. She loved music, especially lullabies. Lullabies had a special kind of magic. They made worries feel smaller. They made hearts feel lighter. They helped tired minds drift toward sleep. And on peaceful nights like this one, the entire toy store seemed filled with invisible lullabies. The creaking wood, the ticking clock, the whispering breeze outside. Even the moonlight felt musical somehow. Everything worked together to create a beautiful harmony, a quiet song for the sleeping world. The toys continued their slow walk through the moonlit store, and all around them the night grew deeper. The stars shone brighter. The air felt softer. and somewhere beyond the rooftops of Willowbrook, a gentle feeling of sleep drifted across the town like a cloud. A peaceful cloud, a dreamy cloud, a cloud filled with beautiful dreams. And as the toys wandered through the store, sharing the calmness of the night together, they knew something very special. This was not just another night. This was a night for remembering, a night for gratitude, a night for quiet happiness. And the most beautiful part of the journey was only just beginning. The night had grown deeper now. Outside, Willowbrook rested peacefully beneath a blanket of silver moonlight. The streets were quiet, the houses were still, the trees swayed gently in the cool night breeze, and inside the last toy store in town, everything felt calm and dreamlike. Oliver and his friends continued their slow walk through the aisles. They moved without hurry, without worry, simply enjoying the peaceful hours of the night. Eventually, they arrived at a place they always loved to visit, a long wooden shelf near the back of the store. The toys called it the Shelf of Memories. Moonlight streamed through a nearby window and rested gently upon the shelf. The soft silver glow seemed to awaken old stories hidden among the toys. Oliver climbed onto a small wooden stool and looked across the shelf. For a moment, nobody spoke. There was no need. The silence itself felt comforting. Then Oliver smiled softly. I wonder how many happy memories began right here. The others looked around. The shelf was filled with toys of every kind. Tiny teddy bears, wooden animals, colorful blocks, little toy houses, each one waiting patiently for its own story, and each one carrying memories of stories already told. Oliver imagined a little boy standing in this very spot many years ago. The boy had carefully chosen a teddy bear from the shelf. Perhaps he had hugged it all the way home. Perhaps he had carried it on adventures. Perhaps he had fallen asleep beside it every night. The thought filled Oliver with warmth. Nearby, Penny gazed toward a row of dolls. She imagined birthday mornings, colorful wrapping paper, excited laughter, bright smiles, children discovering gifts waiting beside cakes and candles. The memories seemed almost close enough to touch. Rusty stood quietly beside a shelf of building blocks. He imagined children sitting on soft rugs, building castles, building towers, building entire worlds from imagination. One block at a time, one dream at a time. Whistle rolled slowly beside a collection of toy trains. He imagined long afternoons spent on living room floors, tiny railways winding through cushions and blankets, small hands guiding trains across imaginary mountains and valleys. The memories felt peaceful, gentle, beautiful, like pages from an old storybook. The toys spent a long time there, remembering, reflecting, smiling quietly. Eventually, Oliver led his friends toward the farthest corner of the shop, a place hidden away from the bright displays near the windows. A quiet place where older toys often rested. The forgotten corner. Moonlight reached this corner too, although more softly, more gently. Dust sparkled in the air like tiny stars. There sat an old rabbit plush, a cloth elephant, a spinning top, several wooden animals, and many other toys that had waited patiently for years. As Oliver approached, the old rabbit smiled warmly. "Good evening, friends." "Good evening," Oliver replied. The rabbit's voice was soft and kind. "I've been watching the moon tonight." "It's beautiful," said Penny. The rabbit nodded. "It reminds me that every night is special." Everyone sat quietly together. The cloth elephant spoke next. "I used to wonder why I never left the store." The others listened. But now, I think perhaps I was meant to stay. Oliver tilted his head. Why do you think that? The elephant smiled. Because I have seen thousands of smiles. The words floated gently through the room. Thousands of smiles. Thousands of happy moments. Thousands of memories. The toys understood exactly what he meant. Not every toy needed to travel far. Not every toy needed a grand adventure. Sometimes simply being part of a happy place was enough. Sometimes quietly bringing joy was its own kind of magic. And perhaps that was the greatest magic of all. The moon climbed higher. The stars sparkled above Willowbrook. The night continued its peaceful journey. After a while, Oliver suggested something special. A tea party. Whistle immediately smiled. Penny clapped softly. Even Rusty's eyes brightened. Soon the toys gathered near the front window where moonlight poured across a tiny table. Everything looked silver and gold beneath the night sky. Tiny cups were arranged carefully. Tiny plates were placed neatly beside them. There was no real tea, no real cookies. But imagination had always been one of the most wonderful things inside the toy store. And imagination made everything feel real enough. Oliver carefully poured invisible tea. Penny arranged tiny flowers. Rusty served imaginary cookies with great seriousness. Whistle tried not to laugh. The scene felt wonderfully cozy. Outside, the sleeping town seemed very far away. Inside, the toy store felt like a world of its own. A peaceful little world filled with friendship and warmth. Nobody spoke loudly. Nobody rushed. The conversation drifted gently like floating clouds. They talked about favorite memories, favorite evenings, favorite moments beneath the moon. The music box named Melody sat nearby, and after some time, she slowly opened. A gentle lullaby floated into the air. Soft notes danced through the moonlight. The melody wrapped around the toys like a warm blanket. Everything seemed quieter now, slower, sleepier. The lullaby continued, and as it played, the toys found themselves looking out the window. The stars shone brightly above the town, thousands upon thousands of tiny lights. Some twinkled softly, others glowed steadily. Together, they transformed the sky into a beautiful ocean of light. Oliver gazed upward. The stars always made him feel peaceful. They reminded him that the world was much bigger than any single toy store, much bigger than any single town. And yet somehow, tonight felt perfect exactly as it was. The toy store, the moonlight, the lullaby, his friends beside him. Nothing more was needed. The night was complete. Slowly, one by one, the toys began feeling sleepy. Penny leaned comfortably against a cushion. Rusty's gears turned more slowly. Whistle rested quietly beside the window. Even Melody's lullaby became softer, gentler, more distant. The moon continued its journey across the sky. The stars shimmered peacefully above Willowbrook, and little by little, the toy store became quieter, stiller, sleepier. Oliver looked around at his friends. Everyone seemed comfortable. Everyone seemed peaceful. He smiled. A warm smile. A grateful smile. Then he settled into his favorite spot near the window. The moonlight touched his soft fur. The night breeze whispered outside. And somewhere far away, an owl called gently into the darkness. Oliver closed his eyes. Penny closed hers. Rusty became still. Whistle rested quietly. Melody played one final note. Then silence returned. A beautiful silence. A peaceful silence. The kind of silence that belongs only to sleeping towns and dreaming hearts. Outside, Willowbrook continued sleeping beneath the stars. Inside, the last toy store in town rested peacefully beneath the moon, holding its memories, holding its stories, holding its quiet magic. And as the night drifted onward, the toy store slept, The town slept. The stars watched overhead. And perhaps, just perhaps, a beautiful dream was already waiting for you too. Good night, dear friend. Sleep well, and may your dreams be gentle, warm, and filled with wonder. The end.